very, very good evening to all of you, and welcome to season 3 of Guts, Glory, and Story. And I'm very happy to welcome everyone to an episode where we have our youngest guest so far, and that's Garvita Gulhati. But a formal introduction will be done by my friend Alok, who happens to know her, and they go a long way back. So Alok will do the honors. Uh, by the way, as Guts Glory Story, I think those of you who are catching us live, any of you who are not able to catch us live, we are also present on 40 podcasts and also on YouTube and on Facebook later. And for those of you who may not be knowing us, some of those who might have tuned in late, I am Sangram Surve. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a marketing strategist and I'm a filmmaker. And right now, host on the show. And with me is my illustrious co-host, Alok Sinha, who's a serial CEO, serial entrepreneur. He's an author. He's also an investor. And he's a great friend to our young guest today, right? So Alok, over to you to introduce our young achiever for the evening.
Thank you, Sangram. Garvita, welcome to Guts, Glory, and Story. And viewers, as Sangram was mentioning, I have known Garvita as a small girl, as my friend Arvind Gulhati's daughter. But somewhere in between, she transformed from being a little Garvi to what the world knows her today as Garvita Gulhati. And the transformation was very rapid and very swift. And this is a girl who, after achieving so much in her life, never did talk about the long list of awards that she has received while we were debriefing with her. In fact, we had to keep prodding her. And she just spoke passionately about saving water, saving lives, saving Mother Earth. And that is what she is. So Garvita, here's my first question to you. You are known as India's water girl. And you have created a massive impact as far as water conservation is concerned. So please tell our viewers, our audience, more about Why Waste, the NGO that you have, and the water conservation initiative, and the impact that you have created on this mission. Garvita.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to all those who have joined live, and of course, those who would be tuning in later. Thank you for listening in and being a part of, powerful conversations like these. Thank you so much to the both of you for having me on this podcast, which has hosted such illustrious people. It's an honor to be a part of this phenomenal community, and I'm really grateful, to be here with you guys today evening. And I think I'll just sort of jump right in and take everyone back to where I started and what really got me into this scene of change making when I was just 15 years old. So several years ago, almost 6 years now, when I was 15 years old, I was reading a lot about the water crisis that India was facing. Like we were discussing a while back, I was reading about farmers taking their lives due to the lack of access to water, and women and girls who were walking miles just to get a glass of water that we often got without even moving a finger. And that got me thinking as to what could possibly be, something that we can do to help change this or help them. And there were no answers that I could find because I was a young teen girl who had very limited access to these people or to even fully be able to understand or empathize what they were going through. And around that time, I chanced upon this piece of information that said 14 million liters of water get wasted every year simply in the water that we leave behind in glasses at restaurants. So that little bit of water that we are leaving behind in our glasses every time we visit a restaurant seemed to be amounting to 14 million liters. And that seemed like one of the most trivial wastages of water that we could ever have. And only imagine that 14 million liters could have been used more optimally by someone else who today has no access to water or who is losing their lives due to the lack of access to water that we leave without even thinking for a second. moved me to my core and really pushed me to want to do something about it. And that was really the birth of Why Waste. Why Waste is a non-profit that I started 6 years ago, which aims at changing the mindsets of people towards water. Our goal is to build simple solutions that can help people become a part of the impact and become a part of the solution, where each and every one of us are ensuring that we're doing our bit and contributing towards saving water and impacting this entire crisis so that we can evade what could be a possible water war. So the first thing, and of course, having been inspired by the issue in restaurants, I started out with visiting restaurants and trying to convince them to save water in every way that I could possibly think of. I would gather a couple of friends over the weekends. We were in high school, so that little bit of time that you get in between school and coaching classes, you just pick up a couple of us, go to some restaurants and start talking to them about how they can start adopting simple things to prevent this wastage of water that was happening in like little bit wastage of water that was happening in classes. But
And how old were you then, Garvita? How old were you when you?
I think 14 or 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, that was about 6 years ago. But it was very challenging because they didn't want to take advice from teenagers. And second, I think equally important was that they could not comply with the solutions that we had or we were giving them, because at the end of the day, they're the hospitality industry, and there's a way certain systems work and a way certain systems are built. And so I took a step back and decided to spend some time understanding the problem better, understanding the root of the problem better, getting together their perspective, and trying to build a solution that can bring together all of these systems, right? Where the change that we are trying to bring is, coming to life, the change that we want them to bring. And of course, those that they're serving, customers, are also changing the way that they're thinking. And so we brought these systems to bring these systems together. There was a lot of trial and error, trying different solutions with different restaurants. We've spoken to over 100 plus restaurants personally, in person, to try and understand their perspectives, their views, understand issues that exist in the community that is stopping them from implementing these issues. Finally, after a lot of trial and testing, came up with this idea called glass half full. Glass half full is all about seeing the glass, filling the glass is only half at restaurants. And it's not just about the water that you fill up in restaurants, but it is about a perspective. So when we talk about seeing the glass half full, it's about having an optimistic perspective. It's about having an optimistic mindset. And that's what glass half full is all about. When you fill the glass only half instead of filling it full, you're taking just as much water as you need. You don't waste. And that way you start seeing that impact, not just at restaurants, but in every aspect of your life. And this was something that we didn't set out to do, but had a lot of feedback from those around us who came and told us that because we were seeing glass half full in restaurants, as soon as we would go back home and start, looking at the various places we were consuming water at home, we started realizing that we were consuming more than we needed in so many different aspects of our lives. And if we just changed our behavior a little bit, we could impact so much. And that
was this your idea, the glass half full insight? Was that your idea?
Oh, yes. It was with a lot of, I think collective knowledge from people around me, from my friends, from some teachers who were sort of supportive of what I was trying to do. And I put together their insights to see, what is the best solution that we can come up with.
Super.
So after, taking this to about 30 restaurants in my community, I live in Bangalore, I live in an area called Kormangla. So after taking this to, a couple of restaurants in our community, I realized that this is not enough. It took me almost 2 years just to get this idea to 30 restaurants. How do I take this to places beyond? And if I have persisted this long, there has to be a way to make the impact larger, because I can't leave it within this community, because this is the idea that everyone can implement. And that's when I wrote a petition to the National Restaurants Association of India, which is a governing body for restaurants that looks and that has a community of over 5 lakh restaurants that exist across India. And from there, sort of took this idea. I launched the petition in March 2018, asking restaurants across the country to adopt the glass half full movement. And I spent almost 9 months sort of petitioning with them. And then I think it took a lot of convincing, a lot of calls. I made hundreds of phone calls, so many emails, and every person that I would meet, I would talk to them about this problem, just hoping that I find someone who is related to the National Restaurants Association of India or any restaurant body, any restaurant community, so that I can find and reach people who I wanted to make that systemic impact. And finally, when I got that first meeting with the NRAI, it was a day before my semester finals began, and I chose to take it anyway because it was something I had been working on for the longest time, and I couldn't give up on it. And yeah, from there, again, definitely them a bit of convincing because they were very unsure about partnering with a young person. It was something that they had never done before, but I think just as how we had worked in the past by always ensuring that every time you enter a system, enter an alliance, you always look at what is the mutual benefit that you can get. And so, telling them that being one of the first youth and, association alliances, we can become a powerful example for change in this, community of ours, in this world of ours, was, I think, something that really moved them the most. And finally, on 22nd of March 2019, an entire year after launching the petition, they partnered with us and took this idea to the 5 lakh restaurants that they represent. And in the process, we were able to reach over 6 million people and save over 10 million liters of water.
Wow. You started off with the insight that 14 million liters of water were wasted because of this, and you're at a stage where you've already kind of saving 10 million liters of water so far from all the efforts. Bravo! I mean, starting from a very clear goal and reaching almost 70% of that distance. Super.
Yeah.
So the question is that in a country like ours, where whenever we go to a restaurant, we are so particular about I'm paying for this water, so that my entire glass should be filled up. To accepting saying, oh my God, why is this happening? So was there any resistance that restaurants reported to you saying that customers are resisting this move? And was there a mindset change that was needed to be educated so that people could fall in line?
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful question, especially being, a country like India where Atiti Devo Bhava, and the first thing that we give to our guests over when they come over is a glass of water, and it pains me when they don't finish it. But so I've actually started. We now keep a jug in a glass and serve that instead, so that everyone takes just as much as they need. Right? It's a very small thing to do, but has a very powerful impact. Going sort of back to restaurants, and since you brought that point up, I think one of the insights that I took when initially our ideas were constantly failing for over 6 months, I went back and read, and about in the 1800s, there was a law that came out that every restaurant needs to give every passerby free water and restroom services. And that free water today has really translated into becoming something that restaurants are rated for. So every time their glasses are filled completely, they get a higher rating to ensure that, that's why you would very often see that waiters are constantly coming and pouring your glasses full, because it's something that they are rated on. And to sort of break away from what that policy is was something that was very difficult to do, but obviously ended up being a very powerful move. And what we started doing when we had the waiters only fill half a glass of water, we would keep our tent cards on the table. So these are like those small placards that you see on tables, and these placards would read about what and why their glasses are filled only half, and talk a little bit about, why and how them saving just this amount of water is actually creating a ripple effect or a multiplier impact. And that would sort of, move these, move the customers as well, and then of course change their mindsets to wanting to change the way they were behaving at home as well.
Brilliant. Because it's so counterintuitive. I think the first response when we go to restaurants and when your glass is not filled is, "Pani hi to hai, bhar do, at least pani mein to kanjusi mat karo." But I guess the 10 card did the trick.
Yeah, and I think one more very interesting insight in that sort of space was when we tried to ask restaurants to not fill glasses full. Now they've become so accustomed to doing it, and of course they also have that constant I wouldn't say any sort of pressure, but like that constant urge to fill water. And they couldn't break away from it. So we had to give them something very powerful that would change the way that they thought about this issue. And we said that this is economically beneficial for you, because if you are not constantly serving water, there's a lot of water costs that you save on. And then that clicked with them. And it took a lot of time to get that insight. So I think in this system, there were so many sort of people. There were customers, there was the NRI, there were managers, there were waiters. And to sort of bring all of them together was constantly finding what, would impact them the most, while also joining the dots as to what would collectively, bring us together. So it was a very interesting process to bring that system.
Garvita, how did you reach them? I mean, reaching 500,000 restaurants. I mean, was there a logistical challenge? Because training all of them is an impossible task if you do one by one. What was the logistical method by which you reached all of them?
Connected question to that is like printing so many tent cards, and there would have to be money spent on the communication. So who footed the bill for this?
So it was sort of, I start from, the initial bit where we started to build modules for restaurants, and we would have sort of video training sessions that our team created. And we put these together, and we would disperse these through the NRAI, as well as for the tent cards. So we brought it down to an absolute minimal cost. So it would come to about 150 to 200 rupees per restaurant. And that was something that most restaurants were willing to take out. And it, became a very powerful and impactful movement for them also to be a part of. Of course, a couple initially we supported with the minimal funds that we had, but moving forward, seeing so many people, take up this idea, seeing so many restaurants, they started wanting to do it themselves. And we made our tent cards also open source so that so all of our information and data till today has been open sourced so that anyone and everyone can implement it. And there was a very powerful sort of effect to that, where we saw not just restaurants, but government bodies or corporates, schools, all of these entities began adopting the glass half full idea. So many without us even knowing. Till today, I get messages from people saying we, from communities or people. Recently, I heard from WaterAid India and so many other communities who actually come to us and say that we implemented the glass half full movement in our spaces, and everyone's, really enjoying the concept of it and really being able to see that impact in their lives. In fact, even the UP government made it compulsory in their parliament to ensure that they all only serve glasses half full.
Wow, that's a big one. So is there some kind of recognition that a restaurant got? I mean, we are a green compliant restaurant. So is there we are a water conservation conscious restaurant? Was there some kind of badges or some kind of recognition, some sense of pride saying we're voluntarily signing up for that?
Yes, so the NREI would highlight restaurants who have become a part of this mission, and then sort of use that to motivate more and more restaurants to come closer.
Sorry, marketing guy, can't help things.
No, let's work together to make this bigger.
Good. So Garvita, you didn't stop there. You went on to write a book. You went on, and then you created an app on water conservation. And this happened because you had connected to a Cape Town Day Zero incident, right? By the way, Sangram, I didn't know that Day Zero never happened. Uh,
I've been a part of many conservation efforts with some of our clients, and I was very much aware of the Day Zero crisis. And Cape Town is very famous for the Day Zero crisis. But the assignment gets over, and we never really know what happened to Day Zero. And I
exactly.
about, oh my God, this Day Zero was supposed to be like a couple of years back, and what actually happened? And I think for the audience, I think Garvita told us in our Guts Glory story session chat that Day Zero never happened. And there's a reason why Day Zero never happened, and that's very much connected to her next initiative. So she will tell us a bit about what is Day Zero, why it never happened, and how did that inspire her to do her next big project. Yes, Garvita.
Garvita.
So I think there's a lot of sort of stories that come together here, and I'm gonna pick them up one by one. But what a very, very powerful story, right? About what happened in Cape Town. In the year 2017, um, the world was at a brink of, probably what we've been saying for so long is the impending water wars, especially when the city of Cape Town announced that they were going to hit day zero. And day zero is basically the day when you run out of water completely and you are back to square one. And it was moving for people around the world, and especially for a lot of people in India, because the second city that was set to run out of water was Bangalore, and about almost 20 plus cities across India to run out of water by 2025. And so it became a huge, huge piece of news where everyone was reporting that Cape Town is going to be hitting these. And Cape Town, really, really wonderful community of people working hard every single day to, bring themselves out of this crisis. And so we would hear the news that would say it started out with, the end of July being day zero, and then that moved on to August, and then September, and then October, and then before we know it, Cape Town never hit day zero. And that was something that wasn't reported enough, not as much as when Cape Town actually hit day zero. And I still don't know why it wasn't reported enough, because the efforts of the citizens were so powerful. But every single citizen got together and started calculating the amount of water they were consuming every day. They were looking at their water consumption. They were ensuring that they ration water equally, and they were ensuring that they don't consume more than they need. And that was so, so powerful that actually pulled them out of hitting day zero. And this is something that a lot of people still today don't know. So really inspired by this concept, and also learning that during the pandemic, almost 2 billion people lack the simple access to water, which is during a global health crisis. Imagine if you don't have access to water. There's so many of us who are spending the 20 seconds washing our hands, and then there are people who don't have water at all. And so, bringing these two ideas together, and of course, because during the pandemic, restaurants shut down, our operations there shut down, with it. We wanted to do something different that could support during the current crisis. And that's when we realized that if Cape Town was able to bring itself out of day zero by simply having every single citizen participate in its water conservation efforts, why can't we help these 2 billion people do the same thing? And that's when we went on to create this concept called water footprint, where you're actually able to calculate your daily water consumption. And then we also went on to the next step, where we give you simple methods you can adopt to save at least 100 liters of water every single day. And imagine if you are able to save 100 liters of water every day, that goes and impacts and builds almost 36,000 liters of water in a year. And that just, constantly multiplies it to the number of people we have and the number of people that we can support. So we translated this entire concept initially into modules, and then finally went on to build a mobile application that you can consume to calculate your water footprint. And then it takes you through a step-by-step journey where it helps you save a little bit more water every single day. So obviously, we don't ask you to switch from a shower to a bucket bath immediately. We ask you to first reduce your shower time and then slowly come to a bucket bath, because change is overwhelming. But if it happens slowly and by everyone, it can happen in a very large way. Um, and and so that sort of was the journey of the app, and we even went on to work with CNN on Mission Pani. So Mission Pani is one of CNN's largest initiatives, based focused on water conservation, where they bring together water conservationists and ideas from across the country and actually bring them to every single citizen, and help all of us realize that there is solutions to these problems if we choose to participate. And we actually went on to build a water footprint calculator with them, which is today hosted on their website. And they are, building and taking this idea to citizens across the country. So that was, the impact of the idea of water footprint and the app.
I think, Garvita, a lot of people want to, I
Yes.
think the questions popping up, they want to know the app name.
Yes, it's called Why Waste. Yes.
Why? Okay, great. So
Yes.
Why Waste is the name of the app, and all the modules are present on the app, all the modules that you've developed.
So the app is sort of a condensed version of all of these modules and very simple to access, gamified. All of the modules are available on our website, the link to which I will leave in the chat. I will leave the link to the app as well, so it's easy for anyone and everyone to access.
Why waste? I think Subronil is asking why waste. No, it's why waste. WASTE. Why waste? Yeah, that's the app name. Super. Yeah. So I think you've told us about the app, and I think there are some simple. I think in our initial conversation you highlighted some simple tips which you've covered in the app. Why don't you just enumerate some of those and then go on to tell us about your book?
Yes, absolutely. So I think some very simple things that we can do, right? Before anything, I just ask everyone to close their eyes and think of all of those things that you do from the moment that you wake up. What is the first thing that you do? And if it does not involve consuming water in some form, then maybe or the first few things that you do during your day, it is a necessity for all of us, in every single way. And sort of that's something we fail to realize, that water is such an integral part of our lives from the moment we open our eyes. So something as simple as brushing your teeth. Instead of turning on the tap, all you need is half a glass of water to brush your teeth, and that's it. So much water saved. First step. Installing usage point optimizers, which are basically flow meters, that reduce the flow rate of your water, and you feel like you're consuming the same amount of water, but you save almost 80 to 90% of the water that was being wasted earlier. Simple things like taking shorter showers or taking bucket baths. When you wash your cars, instead of using a pipe, you use a bucket. The water that comes out of your filters, you use that to clean the house instead of letting it go to waste. Using front load washing machines is a lot more water effective than using top load washing machines. And of course, ensuring that when you're washing dishes, you don't use running water. You use water just when you need it. And there are a lot more different ways in which you can conserve water. If you just take a moment to think if all of the water you're consuming for that specific activity is what you actually need. And you sort of yourself realize that maybe I don't need all of this.
So you changed Sangram to Saurav. Let's get him back to Sangram. Don't worry.
Oh my God, I think I was very, very lost. I'm so sorry about that.
I'm so lost. Don't worry. It's right to tease a young lady on the show. So
I think very lost in water, and I did something messy with the words over there.
I'm focusing on your content, so I didn't even realize it. Alok got that.
I didn't realize it either. I'm so sorry.
I'll tell you, Sangram, it must be the surname which must have fouled up. So absolutely no problem at all. But what about the book? You left it.
Yes. So I think the book was something that we had been working on for a couple of years. Whenever we got, volunteers at Y Waste, it would always be, and every time someone would, come on board, I would always tell them, do what you love the most. And there was this one summer where we got a lot of writers. And I was excited to work with them because I was like, what is something new that we can do with all of you that we haven't done before? And I realized that something very powerful, right? When we're young, is when our mindsets are most shaped. Of course, there's an entire, this entire study of the brain and why it's much more powerful to learn things when you're younger because you're developing, etc. But there is also a very powerful sort of mindset that is built when you're younger. A very simple example of this very powerful image that I saw. It had a color pencil, and that color pencil was, the typical color of peach. And it wrote above, uh, we are taught that this color is skin color, and that's why there will always be racial discrimination. Because, color discrimination. Because from a young age, we are taught that peach color is skin color and no other color is skin color, and we would never learn to accept.
Yeah.
And it's sort of these kind of things that embedded into your system and into your mindsets from a very young age. It becomes very difficult to change as you grow older. And so I realized that there is this, and of course, even while I think I was growing up, there were a lot of instances where we were constantly, exposed to situations where we were made to empathize with people around us and communities around us. And I think that was very powerful in building my mindset specifically. And I realized that what if we translated the sustainability crisis into simple stories that young people can grasp, and create new age fables where they feel empowered and they realize that they can be a part of change and they can make a difference. So we have a collection of 13 stories called the sustainability stories, where the characters are all animals, and typically what you see in fables. And these animals have small issues that they see around them, and they are compelled to solve it. And the character that always solves it is the youngest one, sort of inspiring young kids that you can be the change that you wish to see in the world, even if you're changing something very small. And I think the goal behind it is to change the way that people are thinking, to change the way that young kids are growing up, and to motivate and inspire them to have a change maker mindset and to realize that they can be a powerful part of change. So we sort of have these again available for free online. We publish them with Pratham, who are India's largest non-profit book publishers, and are now converting these into video and audio modules with UNICEF. The goal is to make this available to as many people as we can. Hopefully, also in the future, going to translate these into various languages and make them accessible to young kids across the country. Again, I'll try to leave the link to the books, or the book in the chat.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are asking the name of the book as well. So I think, yeah, it might help to give them the name and where they can actually find access to the book.
Yes.
Brilliant. I think what I find most amazing is when, most people at your age are worried about their careers, are worried about, everything else, but creating social change. You not just thought of an idea, but you persisted with that for almost 6 years with the kind of rigor, determination to actually make it happen. I mean, that is so impressive. That is really so impressive. And for all the youngsters sitting here, and I can see there are many of Garvita's friends, and there are a lot of young people over there who want to collaborate. And let me tell you what the payoff for this for this kind of thinking does is it inspires people, and people all over the world come forward to support, to back, to stand behind such initiative. And I think, Garvita, you've got a ton of that support, right? Right from Facebook, right from UNICEF, right from Forbes. I mean, the whole world came and stood behind this young girl and said, "Oh my God, you're making these strides. We're going to stand behind you." We like you to tell that story of how this backing from a global level came, because that's what is the payoff for thinking differently and having a social conscience. Please tell us about those achievements that you're really otherwise shy to tell us about.
You forgot Shawn Mendes Foundation Wonder Grant. uh, and there must be many more. So Garvita, go ahead.
Uh, no, I think it's very interesting, to see how all of these organizations today are, here to help us and support us, and it's very powerful and very generous of them also, to be a part of that change. But I think just want to trace back a little bit, and what you spoke about, thinking differently and choosing to do differently. I think I was clearly, the black spot in my classroom in school, because I was literally the only one doing something like this. So there was no one else. And a lot of my friends would find it very funny. Some of them would come and tell me things like, why are you wasting your time with why waste? And of course, like I said, it took us 2 years to even, get to those first 30 restaurants. So I think the idea that if you persist with something, eventually you are going to be able to make and see the strides that you've always wanted. Um, and I think 6 years ago, there was very little support, not just from people around you, which anyways, because it was so new to everyone, they were confused about what was happening. But in general, in the world, there was very little support to young people. And slowly, as the initial few of us continued to build these journeys, there were very few limited organizations, who would support us in this process. And I think I'd love to name two of them who have been very pivotal on my journey. One has been Ashoka, the Global Foundation, which was founded 40 years ago by Bill Drayton. I think them and Ashoka really identifies social entrepreneurs from across the world and does everything and finds every possible way in which they can support them. So very, very powerful in that sense. And the second one would be Global Changemakers, which is a community of young people from around the world who are, changing, impacting, trying to do their bit to make a difference, maybe lost in their own words. But when you come into the Global Change community, you find your tribe, you find your people who think like you and who want to do like you. And so I think 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years into the journey, having found these communities was very powerful for me for two reasons. One, to be able to continue to persist. Because it's of course not easy, right? Change doesn't come easily. Impacting mindsets is one of the hardest things you can do, because it's something that's so embedded in you. And even seeing people, be supportive of what you're doing or try to understand what you're doing is extremely hard. So to, have that support system constantly backing you. And of course, then, having, I think also credit to definitely my family that supported me on the journey. But I think to have those systems and communities that are out there, that have been a part of this world and that are helping you become a part of it. And I've seen a lot of people who do become a part of those communities, but who don't use it to the fullest. So to ensure that when you are a part of a community, when you are a part of a group of people, you are giving them as much as you can, and you're also being able to take and learn as much as they can give you. So I think, trying to learn that two-way process really helped me personally, not only just grow the organization, but also grow as a person. And I think even when it comes to these various grants and of course the recognitions, I think especially with the grants, they're very hard to come by. And I would apply for hundreds of grants and then get, one or two. And it's something that I've seen that happens so often, but is not seen, that if you don't, I think that there's always a 1% sort of success rate when you try to do something that is out of the ordinary. And so if you try just 10 things, there's the chance that you're really not successful at anything. But if you try 100 things, at least one is going to work out. If you try 1,000 things, 10 things are going to work out. And so I think to constantly, be trying and to constantly find those opportunities, pursue them, and persist with them was very powerful in sort of reaching all of these communities and being able to become a part of them in such a large way. And I think then, of course, once you're a part of it, your everyday move to want to do more, because even if you're having a bad day, or even if you're having a day where you don't feel like making decisions, someone from your community will come out and reach out to you and say, let's do something together. And you have a new idea and a new purpose, and you're just, again, awake and energized to do something.
So Garvita, there's something called the domino effect. You're right. The first one out of 100 is difficult, and then the next 200 out of 1,000 becomes slightly easier. But then it's just like an exponential curve where everyone listens to you, and I think you're reaching there. I have one question, but I'll put it right to the end. I don't want to ask that question now. But we do have a number of questions that came in from the audience when they registered, and maybe those are some of, and they're pretty potent ones. So Nupur Jain, she writes, "How can I become a part of your team?" So there you go.
Actually, a lot of people on the chat are wanting to become a part of your team. They want to collaborate. There's someone from Chandigarh University and says Chandigarh University wants to collaborate with Y Waste. So yes, I think while you can get in touch with them and we'll note down their numbers and help you respond to them, I think from the scores of people that you've inspired and who want to be a part of your work, how do they go about it?
Oh, something very simple. I think one, definitely, if you're keen to become a part of our team directly, you can write to us on contact@vywaste.io. I've left the email in the chat. Please feel free to write to us. Someone from our team would definitely reach out to you, and we'd find a way in which you can support us. You can also support us by checking out our modules online and using them to build change in your communities. We've literally created a module which is all about building a version of Y Waste in your own community. So anyone and everyone can become a part of the impact that we're trying to create. Everything, all of the things that we do, from our app to our book, and all of our modules are open source and available for free. I've left all of the links in the chat, so you can please feel free to go ahead, consume it, take it to your communities, be it your corporation, your school, your university, anywhere. And of course, in the process, if there's anything, we're always here to help.
Super. I think there's another very interesting question, and I'm so tempted to answer that myself, but I'm keen to see what your answer is. And we were just discussing this question before we.
Yes, we were doing that.
And the question is from Vishesh, and he says, "How can we manage to contribute our efforts to any cause when we are struggling with so many menaces all around us?"
I think it's about firstly defining what a menace is, right? I think imagine if there were no menaces in your life, what would you be doing? There would be sort of no purpose, right? So I think first accepting the fact that being accustomed to change and being accustomed to this very volatile system that we live in, especially in the world that we live in today, right? It's called the VUCA world, the volatile, uncertain, ambiguous world that we are sort of existing in today. And so something very powerful about young people, right, and people of my age, is that we have grown up in this world. So ever since sort of we came into being, the world has been like this, and we've grown up constantly seeing problems around us, and so I think realizing that just menace is a constant, change is a constant, right? But what you can do is probably just start with that one small thing, right? Even if things around you are in a menace, if you're just using a glass of water to brush your teeth, it cannot be that much of a menace to you. and of course, take it slowly. Don't push yourself to constantly try to be the best citizen. No one is the best citizen. Everyone's trying to do their little bit. Talk to people around you about the issues that you see. Try to be a part of change. If it's overwhelming you, take a step back, stop. Don't read anything. Don't read the news. Don't watch anything that could possibly impact you, because this is something that I tell my team also. But if your mental health is not fine, or if you don't feel fine yourself, you can't help others. And so the first thing towards helping others is to, of course, help yourself. And so start with helping yourself. That is a huge change that you can bring about. Start with changing your habits before going ahead and changing anyone else's, because by the time you don't change, you can't expect anyone else to change. And take it slow. Don't be pressured into changing everything immediately, because you don't have to. You can do it slowly, and once you're slowly into the process, you would yourself be compelled to keep taking that next step, because you realize how powerful it is to be a part of change.
Garvita, you sounded like a 45-year-old self-wellness trainer, a coach. But I'm so excited that you're so well grounded. I'm so happy that you're so well grounded.
What I loved about her answer is, out of the various things that she said, I love the way she started. She said, "What's life without any of those menaces?" Right?
You're right.
Because it is those very menaces that give us purpose. It is because those menaces exist that somebody needs to rise up, take them head on, and start change. Brilliant.
Very well said. So I'll ask you a question which has been sent in by Sunita Ramaswamy. I think she's NPS HSR. Were you ever taught entrepreneurship in school or at the undergrad level? And if yes, did it have any impact? So I think what she's trying to ask is, was there any training, or is this something which surfaced or which came out from yourself?
Okay. I love that question because I love the idea of entrepreneurs and the impact that they bring in the world and how much we need entrepreneurial education in schools. But having said that, I think entrepreneurship can't be taught; it can only be experienced. There's only sort of so much that you can learn out of books and out of reading something about entrepreneurship versus actually being in the moment and trying to solve those problems. An entrepreneur is someone who is solving problems, and you can't solve problems on paper. You can only solve problems that really exist. Solving problems on paper is for mathematics. And though that is something that I love doing, but an entrepreneur solves problems that exist in the real world, that problems that exist in your community or in places around you. And even looking at the smallest issue in your community or at home or in your school or in your classroom, being able to come up with a concrete solution for that is being an entrepreneur. I think I didn't know I was an entrepreneur till 2 years after having started Vibe. And that's when I learned the term social entrepreneur. And that's when I sort of, began to realize that, okay, okay, cool. I'm an entrepreneur. This is very cool. Now I'm going to, learn a little bit more about entrepreneurs that exist in our world and try to learn from the different things that they've done. But I think entrepreneurship is two things, right? You learn from experience and you learn from examples. And that's how I think it needs to be taught at the school level, at the collegiate level also. Personally, I think I haven't I never had a formal entrepreneurial education, but I had a lot of opportunities towards the end of my school life to, be in leadership positions that allowed me to realize how much I love, building communities and sort of taking people together and bringing impact. And I think there was this one very powerful quote from Steve Jobs that moved me the most. Until I think for a very long time, I was never the best at anything. And I would always feel like, it wasn't enough, or is there something more that I need to do? But this specific quote that he said really changed the way that I would think about everything. And he said that musicians play their instruments and I play the orchestra. And that was very powerful because I realized that my whole life, or just the community around me, the way the world is built was to make yourself the best at one thing, but there was this other powerful thing that you could do, which was bringing systems together, bringing people together, and taking them to the next level, and to sort of practically be able to apply that piece of information that I learned, and to see that this is something that I thoroughly enjoy, and then translate it into an entrepreneurial journey that I've had. I think that was for me, the biggest learning path.
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
So I think we're coming to two last questions, and I'm going to give the last one for Alok. But I think there's a lot of youngsters over there who want to know, what is it that motivates you? What is it that keeps you going? How can they get into your shoes and get your mindset?
So something simple, right, to all of the young people out there. I was just talking about it. We're a, I don't know if we're a unique generation because we're growing in a world of constant problems. And because we're growing in a world where we're constantly seeing problems around us, we're also constantly thinking of solutions and ways to solve them. Because we want to make, of course, the space better for us. We want to be be a better self, right? Come out of the menaces that exist. And so we're constantly looking and thinking of solutions. We have curious minds. We have powerful sort of thoughts that we can use to make a difference. But very often we don't realize that as young people, and it can be scary to take that first step or take that push yourself to do it. But I think to all the young people out there, I would say, see and read stories of young people just like you who have identified problems in their community and gone out there and made a difference, who have been able to, even the smallest of change matters, even if it is just changing yourself or changing your habits or changing your behavior or changing the way that your family is, consuming resources, you are making a difference. And so to use stories around you as your empowering, push to use the help of people around you. Ask for help. Everyone here is ready to give help. You just need to ask for it. Often we're so scared to just ask for that help when we're younger because we don't think that people are going to, support us or help us. But if you just ask, there's a lot that you can get. And what is the worst thing that could happen? Well, they don't help you. That's okay. There's someone else who would. So ask as much as you could, and don't be afraid to sort of take help from others or sort of just try, because that's the first step towards doing anything and towards making any kind of sort of change that you would want.
Brilliant.
So my last question.
Yeah, the question that you've been waiting to ask.
Yes. So Garvita, decidedly, you've achieved a lot, and at a very young age, you've achieved a lot. And all of us, whether known to you or not necessarily known to you, I think everyone is very proud of what you've done, both as Indians as well as seeing what a millennial can do, a millennial can do. What am I doing? All right. So so the question is, what do you want to do with your life as you go further? I mean, is there any call to action that you want to give to the youth who are listening to you today? And in short, where does the India's water girl wish to go from here?
I think the previous answer translates, sort of snowballs very well into this question as well. I think two very simple things, right? Change is the only constant, but now we're in the constant need for change makers. The world needs each and every one of us to step up and try to do whatever we can to make a difference. And no matter what we're doing in life, right? No matter what your career is, you can be a part of impact. You can be a part of change. You just need to find it. You need to find that one thing that you have always wanted to make a difference in. It's not something that you need to quit your current whatever you're doing for. You can incorporate it very easily. That's to everyone, to every young person. I think the world needs our ideas because we have powerful concepts to change the world. We have powerful ideas. Growing up in an ever-changing world, we have ideas that no one else often thinks of. And we need to come up, use our voices, and just always remember, if one young person has the power to turn the world upside down all by themselves, then all the youth coming together ought to be able to turn it the right side up. And that's what we need. We need the power of all of our voices to come together, to be a part of this change and to become one so that we can build what is and what we need as a better future for each and every one of us.
Brilliant.
Ever feel that we were talking to a young guest on our show? Did it, Sangram?
I was hit by two things. It's never too old. I mean, age is something that's only in our mind, because it's never too old to learn. Because I think we, at our age, got schooled by the young Garvita, and trust me, I've learned so much from you today. Yeah, and it's never too young to teach, because there is so much perspective that you offer to all of us. And I think two things stayed with me, and I think I'll emphasize that a lot more. The thing that you said about that there's a constant need for change makers, because change is going to be a constant. And one more thing that hit me very hard is, typically as you grow older, you get conditioned into the so-called practicalities of the world, right? And at your age, you don't have those barriers at all. You don't know what's practical. And hence, if you put a lot of zest and fire into that idealism which you have for that age, and that becomes the core, and that becomes the base from where you begin your life, nothing could be better than that. So may there be more of you. May there be more change makers at your age. I hope that this episode reaches more people. And I already told you, right? So I was telling the audience before, when we began this session, that surprisingly, after we started putting out Garvita's episode, I started getting, LinkedIn requests from achievers under 15, like this 13-year-old girl who's like a TEDx speaker and was interviewing young change makers. There's another person who's doing some NGO work. And oh my God, I mean, it's so refreshing to know that there are so many more of you like that, right? So it was a fantastic session. I mean, I can say from the bottom of my heart that I was touched and I was inspired. I was very, very inspired by your story, and may there be more like you. Alok, any last words?
Absolutely, absolutely. Garvita, truly, truly inspiring. And today, amongst the audience, we've had students, we've had startup CEOs, we've got leaders, people old, people young. And I think no one is going back without that feeling. Yeah, this is a leader who has done something. Not a young girl, but a leader who has done something. I keep leading us, keep leading us, keep leading this country. And from Guts, Glory and Story, all the very best. But from Sangram and I, all the very best on this endeavor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It was so much fun to have this conversation. And I think it's all of us coming together, right? For you to share stories like these, find more young people, have each and every one of us become part of the movement. I think just having this session itself and bringing 60 more people and just making them aware about the water crisis is itself so powerful. So thank you also for, having these conversations every week. It's bringing so much more knowledge to us. And I'm very happy to have spent my evening with all of you. And thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you, Garvita.
Thank you. So that's it from us, folks. I think next Saturday we'll be speaking to Dr. Sanjay Arora, who's the founder and MD of Suburban Diagnostics. We'll hear some interesting stories about COVID. He's a very eclectic personality. I mean, apart from being the owner of a business, he's a homegrown chef. He's like a practicing DJ at his age. So we have a lot to learn, and he's going to tell us about 10 lessons that he learned from his life during his journey to Suburban. So yeah, that's scheduled for next Friday, same time. And till then, final goodbye from all of us. You have a great weekend, and thank you for spending your time on a Friday evening listening to all of us here.
Thank you very much, viewers. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.